Hi, welcome to Money Matters. I'm Alison Hinson, and today we're going to be talking about what you should think about if you're going to college, if perhaps you're a high school senior thinking about going to college, or if you were somebody who left high school maybe a long time ago, never went to college, or maybe you did a little college, stopped, and it's time to go back. So our guest today is Paula Gagnon. She is the Vice President and Academic Dean at York County Community College. So welcome, Paula.
Thank you, Alison.
So I always think of college, it used to be, oh, you're 17 or 18, you're graduating from high school, and you go to college. But that leaves, I mean, I think that still happens, but that leaves out a whole bunch of people out there who aren't 18, like me, anymore. So I guess the first question, we all think about funneling high school seniors into college. Sometimes that might be the best path, sometimes it might not be. Is that still something that high school seniors do?
Oh, absolutely. In Maine, actually in all of New England, you don't have to have a college degree to get some of the jobs in our region. Think about the tourism industry or hospitality or things like that. So you don't have to have a college degree to get that job. I get that. But think about 10 years from now. Do you still want to be doing that same job?
And that's where I wonder, if you decided not to go, you know, you graduate from high school, you decided not to go to college, and then 10 years later you're thinking, you know, 10 years later you're 28, maybe you have a family, or you're thinking, you know what, I didn't want to do it, maybe I didn't want to, I couldn't afford it, that's not where my brain was at that point. But that's where I am right now.
Right.
So is there an opportunity, obviously there is for people who are just graduating from high school to go to college, but for people who maybe are 10, 15 years out, is there an opportunity? Can you really go back to college? If you missed it at the end of your high school years, can you go back?
The answer to that is absolutely yes. What a college degree really is the secret key to opening doors that wouldn't be open to you otherwise. So you may have a pretty good job, you've got a family, you've been working for 10, 12, 15 years, but you really would like to get that promotion they're talking about. So that college degree, any degree, helps open that door to be in more responsible positions.
And I think what you said, sometimes you want to move on, and I've seen a lot of jobs where you just have to say, I have a college degree. Most of the time I find they're not asking you what your college degree is in, they just want you to say, check, I have a college degree.
Right.
So let's going back to the traditional student, what we call the graduating from high school.
Right.
What should they think about when they're getting ready to choose a college? Because that's a big thing for an 18-year-old to think about. You're thinking about committing 4 years. It could be a huge ton of money. And how do you know what you really want to do when you're 18?
Well, I know I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 18. Who does?
Yeah.
I think that what I advise people when they're asking me about, you know, how do I do this? First of all, you need to be absolutely honest and candid with yourself. And that sometimes is hard. If Dad owns a business and he wants you to get that degree in accounting so that you can follow in his footsteps of the business, you may not feel right now, Dad, I don't really want to do this, so you just stay quiet. And suddenly you find yourself 3 years from now, halfway through an accounting degree, and you don't like it. So that's why now you need to start having those honest conversations with yourself and with your parents. Because the one thing that happens, college is expensive, we know that. There's financial aid, there's grants, there's scholarships, there's also loans. You don't want to end up at the end of your journey without the degree, with bad grades, and with lots of loan.
But I know a lot of people who have ended up in that situation.
Right.
And to me, the worst thing is to have the loans, and I don't even think about the grades, but to have the loans and to have nothing to show for it. Because those loan payments still keep coming. They don't say, oh, you didn't graduate. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
So for high school seniors then, isn't it hard though, because everybody's expecting you to go, or they want, what are you doing next year? What college are you going to? Any advice on what to say if it's not right for you?
Well, I think the first thing is, do your research. You wouldn't buy a car without looking at what it gets for mileage, what systems it has in it, and yet you're making a decision to go to a college based on, well, Dad went there, or my friends are all going there, and so you really need to look at, what do I think I like to do? You don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, but what am I interested in right now? And then you need to look at the college and see what programs and majors do they offer? What training do they offer? Do they have articulation pathways from the high school or the tech center that I'm in? So in other words, I could have taken a class and I've already earned college credits. Does that exist for me? Do I think I might want to go to a community college because I'm so unsure of what I want to do? Well, then look and see what articulation agreements they have with their four-year partner down the street.
What's an articulation agreement?
Oh, that's a good question. Basically, the college, the high school and the college, or the community college and the four-year college, sign an MOU, an agreement that they will take the credits. So a community college degree is about 60 plus credits. A baccalaureate degree is about 120 credits.
And that's the 4-year.
That's the 4-year, okay. So we've got many agreements that are what we call 2+2s. They take every single community college credit into the program at the 4-year school. So you're starting out as a true junior, halfway through, which means you save half of the tuition bill, because most community colleges in New England are at least half of what the 4-year colleges charge.
At least. Wait.
Right. Which means you're going to cut back on your loan indebtedness, you're not going to waste time, and how to say this, sometimes the first year of college is that transition year where you realize, oh, this isn't high school. I can't just get up in the morning, throw my clothes on and show up. I have homework, I've got all kinds of things, and you're not expecting it. So if you're going to have to adjust and learn how to be a college student, why not do it when it costs less?
And I know a lot of people who, as you say, at 18, even people who think they know what they want to do, they really don't. So my advice to people always is look at the community college, because you're right. If you say, well, maybe I want to go to a 4-year college later, that's my goal, but I could take English and math and what any college would require of you, I can take it for a lower price at a community college, and perhaps, depending on my maturity level, because I'm thinking about what you said, a lot of people do go to college where their friends go.
Right.
And that might not be the, how shall we say, the best motivator for good grades.
Very well put.
Because you're going with your friends and, hey, we're all at college, no parents, nobody's there to make sure you're in bed or to wake you up the next morning, or not that personally happened to me. But I think that's a good transition. So if that's a good transition for people who are just coming out of college or out of high school, can adults maybe even 5, 10, 15 years down the road, if they're thinking, wow, I didn't do it, or maybe I got a degree and I don't know what I was thinking when I got it, I'm interested in something else. How do adult students come back? I mean, I'm assuming they can come back.
Oh, of course. But it's really a different process. I usually advise people, find out if your company or your employer has any kind of tuition reimbursement program. That's the first thing.
Which means the employer will pay for it.
If you pass the course, the employer will pay for your course. And many workers never think to ask that question.
Oh, but that's free money.
Well, exactly. Now, you have to do the grades, you have to do the work. But then take a look at all the flexibility now. 2-year and 4-year colleges in the last 10 years have quadrupled their flexibility of how courses are delivered, when courses are delivered. They're fully online programs, not just courses. There's hybrid, where you might come in once a month and the rest of it's online. There's full-term courses like you and I were used to, okay? Yeah. But now there's also what we call mini-terms, like 7-week sessions, and there are 7-week sessions that are designed to avoid the tourist season. So if you're working at an inn or a restaurant,
never thought about that.
You might not start in September. You might start after Columbus Day in October, and you would take 1 or 2 courses You might take a winter term course, a 2-week winter term intensive. You might take in the spring, in January, another heavier semester, like 2 or 3 courses, but then in 7 weeks. Then in the second 7 weeks, your employer's starting to pick up again. And so maybe you just take 1 course and nothing in the 2 7-week terms in the summer, because that's when you're going to be working 60 hours a week for your employer. But you can kind of make your course schedule look like a bell curve. You know, so summer's almost nothing, but when you're not busy in the tourist industry, you can load up on the courses. And almost all of them are offered online or with some face-to-face and some online.
So this is very different than 15 years ago.
Right.
Because I always think, oh, if I'm going to go back to school as an adult and I've got a family, to have to be out of the house 1 night a week or 2 nights a week and leave my job and go somewhere and sit and then not get home till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, when guess what, the stuff that I need to do at home is still sitting there.
Right.
This sounds like it's a lot more flexible.
It's designed to be flexible. It's designed to meet working adults where they are. It's designed to give credit for life learning. I mean, there's all kinds of...
So wait, what do you mean by life learning? Credit for life learning?
We call it assessment of prior learning. You could have worked at a tech firm for the last 10 years, coding or something like that. You've gained knowledge, you've gained skills. So assessment of prior learning is a process that lets you describe what you've done. A committee of academics at the college you're looking at will look at it and say, yeah, this is definitely worth, 3 credits, 6 credits, 12 credits of college work. And so you don't have to take intro to management, or you don't have to take, an entry level course. It's work because you've got to put a portfolio together, but you're able to do it because of what you've learned on the job.
So with all of this stuff for what I think of as, we used to call it non-traditional students, but now, I mean, that's most of the population, because most of us aren't graduating from high school. We're out there, we've got decades out there. There's a lot of people, I understand, in Maine that are maybe 4 courses short of a college degree. I've seen this stat because states like to compare what percentage of our citizens have college degrees. What can you do if you're literally you're 4 courses short? Maybe you dropped out to work, maybe you ran out of money 10 years ago. What can you do to get back? Because am I going to call up and say, hey, remember me? I was there 15 years ago. Do colleges, if I went to a college, would they still have my records, and would they still be able to help me without laughing at me and saying, oh, we burned those grades or those records, 10 years ago because we hadn't heard from you?
No. Definitely they maintain your records. The registrar's office will exist long after every college is closed because you have to maintain those records. And programs now have gotten more creative. You may be able to, let's say you started in, I have to make stuff up now. You started in accounting, but you didn't go down that route. Well, they may be able to take what courses you did take, figure out what courses that you need, whether it's gen eds or something like that, and then put together, many colleges have something called either career studies or trade and technical occupations, where it's a more generic degree. It takes what you've studied already and what you're doing now and puts it together to make a degree. So that's a flexible way of doing it.
So again, you just need to check the box, I've been to college. Right. You don't need to say, I've been to college and I went here and then dropped out because of my bad grades, and then I went here and I went here. You just need to say...
You need to get that piece of paper, right, exactly.
And that's all you need to do. And it sounds like the colleges are very helpful.
2- and 4-year colleges have gotten, I think, very creative. They also work together. Most of the 2- and 4-year colleges in Maine have lots of articulation agreements between each other, because look at it this way, if you're a 4-year college person and you would like to keep your enrollment stable over the whole 4 years, people do drop out or leave or something like that. What a wonderful source or pool of successful college students who can transfer into your program in the junior year. So it's good. It's a good business model for everybody, and it's great for students. It really is. So many students, going back to the high school students, assume that college is just like high school.
And it's not.
First two semesters or even 2 years, they're thinking I can get by with what I did in high school, and it is nothing like high school. And I tell students, you know, if you want to be successful, you need to have that conversation with yourself. It's work. And you're, like I said, half of the equation. You're going to be working just as hard as your faculty member is. I mean, the other thing is if they offer you an orientation to college, attend.
But why? I took a tour once. I looked
not
online.
The same thing, because there's so many differences. No one's going to be waking you up and getting you, dressed and off to class in the morning anymore. You don't have to catch a bus. Well, maybe you do, because if you ride the wave from Sanford to the coast, you're taking the bus. But you're doing it on your own. And when you decide to miss a class, it's not like high school. They're not going to send a truant officer out after you. And when you show up at your Wednesday class, having skipped the Monday class, please don't even think of saying to your professor, "Did I miss anything on Monday?" You know, I always want to answer, "No, we just played cards because you weren't there." Of course you missed something, and you're responsible for going back and either getting notes from somebody or studying in the book. You've got to pick it up yourself, and students don't realize that. Whether they're an adult, you know, they may know a little bit more, but fresh from high school, that's where I see their mistakes. They're assuming that they're just going to do what they did in high school, and it's so different.
So is it unusual for somebody to then start? So let's say I graduated from high school, all's fabulous, I go to college, and maybe everything's not so fabulous, and perhaps I am invited not to come back the next semester or the next year. Does that mean I have utterly failed at college and it's never out there for me?
No. When colleges, first of all, we'll probably put you on probation for a semester and ask you to attend the Learning Center for tutoring or see your advisor on a regular basis, or, you know, what other kinds of things that you weren't doing. And with our population, where I am, we've got a lot of students who work full-time or part-time and still try and go to school full-time or part-time.
And that's a hard thing to do.
That's a hard thing to do. So we might put you on probation and ask you to work with a time management person or something like that. Okay, so that's the first thing. So then if you are going to be asked not to come back, and that's such a nice way to put it, suspended. You know,
asked not to come back. Perhaps, as somebody once told me, perhaps you need to take a long walk in the woods and think about what you want your future to be.
But even then, you usually colleges say you have to sit out for a semester or a year, and then you can apply to come back. And they'll tell you, oftentimes four-year colleges will say, you know what, why don't you go to a community college while you're on hiatus from us? Take that math class or take whatever course, you know, was giving you trouble, and then when you apply to come back, we're going to see that, oh, you made good use of your time while you were on your walk in the woods.
Yes.
You know, you took a couple courses and you got A's and B's. Fine, you're back in. Yes, you never, well, you could be out of college forever, I suppose, at some point, but there's plenty of what I call roads back in.
And that's what I'm hearing from you, is that if I chose not to do it, or I perhaps chose to do it and perhaps had to go take my little walk in the woods, that I can come back and that there are pathways.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But what are some of the roadblocks? If I'm coming back, I can think of money as a roadblock, because what if, as you said, employers, a bunch of employers do offer tuition reimbursement, but it can be expensive. So I'm thinking that money's a roadblock to coming back. Time is a roadblock, but you've talked about the fact that there are different ways, online classes, those mini classes, that you need to go out and ask the questions. No one's going to come to you and say, hey, you know, come on back and here's the program. What do I do if I'm thinking about going back? Do I just call a college and say, hey, here's my situation?
I would, well, assuming you're not going to pick up and move cross country.
Yeah, I'm saying I've got a family here.
I would drive to the local college and walk in the front door and go to the admissions office. Both 2-year and 4-year colleges now are wanting, needing, helpful to working adults. We know that that's a population that's out there that needs to be served too. So you don't have to worry about walking in the front door and being told, you know, the old people's house is down the street.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
No, of course not. We've got students that are in their 50s and 60s in some of our classes, and they're wonderful students because they're curious and they're serious. And you're right, they're oftentimes paying themselves, or they've gotten a loan, or they've gotten financial aid or something like that. But they're adults. They're not wasting their money, and so they tend to be very good students.
Because to me, I've got the roadblock of money, which can I, as an adult, can I still get a student loan? Because I'm used to thinking of student loans only apply to, oh, I'm graduating from high school and I fill out the forms to get a student loan. Can working adults get student loans?
Absolutely. And many colleges have a foundation, a fundraising arm of the college that specifically goes out and raises money for scholarships, because some working adult may only want to take one course a semester, and take 5 years to finish their degree. You look at it this way, they're going to be 5 years older anyway. Would you like to be 5 years older without the degree or with the degree? So one class at a time, and many colleges have scholarships precisely for that kind of individual.
See, I think of scholarship again as, oh, I'm 18, I'm graduating, I'm applying. I didn't realize that there were scholarships for older adults.
Sure.
So that looks like it takes care of my concern about money. Now the concern about time. How many hours, if I'm coming back to school, it's not like I'm sitting at home thinking, oh wow, I've got all these hours where there's nothing going on in my life. If I'm an adult going back to school, I have a family, I have work, I'm trying to do well at work, I might actually have a social life. And where am I going to find the time? How much of a commitment am I going to have to do per class?
Well, keep in mind, and this is very old school of me, but we in higher ed always tell somebody, plan on 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour you sit in a class. That's a good rule of thumb. Nothing like high school, because that's not what they tell you in high school. So if you know that, then you can sit with a spouse, your family, your kids, because it is a different commitment. And so you may say, okay, one night a week, I'm taking a class, and so that's pizza night now.
Yeah.
Your dad's going to bring the pizza or whatever it is. Or you have to look at things and say, I'm really active in my church and I chair several committees. I'm going to have to drop chairing the committees. Yeah, I'm still going to go to church, but I'm going to drop the chairmanship responsibilities, at least for the next 2 semesters or year, while I'm trying to make headway on things. Or you decide that, this is what I did, which is awful, I really don't have to clean the house every week. I could do it every other week. And so you make choices where you find some additional time. The other thing that many of the adults figure out, we waste so much time. You walk in the door and the TV goes on right away. And the first thing I did was unplug the TV. If I have to go to the trouble of plugging it back in and hooking the cable back up, I'm not going to turn it on. But people don't understand how much time they waste when they're not being purposeful with their decisions. But do all that stuff before you start back at college. So the family's involved too. And the other thing I tell working adults is your kids, whether they're in 2nd grade or 5th grade, you have some things to do too. Have them join you at the kitchen table when you're doing your homework. And that's kind of fun. They're watching mom sit there, mom's doing her homework, mom's studying, mom's going to college. This is important. And it's a great way to motivate your kids.
I think also when you're trying to find the time, and this might sound awful, but think about Friday nights. You get home, you're done. I mean, what productive do you usually do Friday nights? I took Friday nights and Saturday mornings, and that gave me a good, Friday night from maybe 6 to 9. So of course it's pizza night, pizza and a movie, you get it done, and then Saturday morning I'd be up at 6, work till 9. That got me 6 hours of work that really didn't impact the family, because at 9 a.m. everybody's up, you make breakfast, you have your fun time together. But that was a way for me to carve out 6 hours of productive time. And yes, you have to be motivated. So as an adult, I will tell you that I was much more motivated in college as an adult than as a high school senior.
Absolutely.
Because again, I think, and this might be part of the change, but as you're older, you have more motivation. You can see better what the end goal is, whether you're just checking off that box because your employer wants it. I felt like I was a much better student, and then I will tell you that I got much better grades from doing it. Is that typical? You're
very typical. And in fact, at the beginning of the semester, we're listening to students in the hallway chatting and stuff like that. And 2 freshmen young 18-year-olds came out of the classroom, and one said, "I knew this was going to be bad. Did you see there's 3 older ladies in the back of the room? There goes the grade." You know, because they knew the older students get better grades. So there goes the curve. You know.
So what, if I'm thinking about going back to college, what would be the best thing you could tell me to do? We've talked about I can get the money, we've talked about how to find the time. I had never really thought about preparing the family, but that's a really good thought.
Well, that's your support network.
Not only is it support network, but they're going to feel the lack of time. Perhaps they might feel the lack of the house isn't being cleaned, or the food's not being cooked, or, I mean, in my house it'd be like, yay, it's pizza night.
Right, exactly.
And that's where I'm trying to think of how do you get through this, whether it be I just need one more course to finish to get my degree, or I'm starting because I just didn't do it before. What would be something else that I might need to know?
I think the biggest thing that you can do is put yourself first, which is something that parents and adults
we never do.
We don't do well. Exactly. Put yourself first. Explain to family, friends, parents, whoever it might be, that this is a priority for you right now. Involve them in that. Help me be successful. That kind of a thing. The worst thing you can do is try to fit it in so that it doesn't impact anything else in your life.
And that's what I would try to do. Oh, I'll just stay up late.
I'll squeeze it in here.
Yeah.
Here's an hour and a half when I don't see anybody anyway because I'm usually sleeping. Well, you need to keep sleeping,
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen so many adults try to do. It's kind of like, I can't have it impact the family. I'm not a good mom if I do that, or I'm not a good wife if I do that. Put yourself first.
And I think if you put yourself first doing that, then when you go and you get that degree, and as you said, it unlocks a secret door,
right,
then everybody benefits. Well, good. Well, thank you so much for being on, and for everybody listening, I hope you pick up the phone, or as Paula said, drive down to the college and ask what they can do to help. Because a lot of colleges I find these days are very, very welcoming to students of all ages, all abilities, no matter what you did perhaps when you were 18, it's in everybody's best interest. So have a great week, and thank you for watching Money Matters.